On the 12th of July 2023, Barcelona announced the signing of Vitor Roque from Atlético Paranaense in Brazil to see him arrive in January 2024. And Barcelona fans at the time were extremely excited. Both Barcelona and Real Madrid have had a lot of success in going to Brazil and signing Wonderkids. Barcelona obviously got Neymar Jr. and more recently Real Madrid got both Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. using this method. There of course also have been busts like Renier, but for the most part these Wonderkids turn into at least extremely good players, and Barcelona fans had a right to be very excited about Vitor Roque joining Barcelona. Vitor was coming off of a season in Brazil where he, at the age of just 18 years old, had just played 45 games, grabbing 21 goals and getting 8 assists from the striker position. Significantly better seasons than what both Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo came to Spain off of, and about the same statistical season that Neymar Jr. had when he joined Barcelona in 2014. So although stats are not everything in football, the promise was there for all to see, and it was more than understandable to see why the cash-strapped Barcelona were still willing to pay 30 million euros for an 18-year-old from Brazil. But fast forward to today, just 6 months after being in Spain, Vitor Roque may leave to Saudi Arabia after only managing a very underwhelming 6 months at Barcelona where he got just 2 goals. But how did this happen? How did this Brazilian wonderkid that was tearing up Brazil become an almost instant flop at Barcelona, seemingly destined to leave Barcelona after just 6 months at the club? Well, that's what we'll be talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Back of the Net here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Vitor Roque joined América Mineiros' youth team at the age of just 10 years old, and in 2019 he was poached by Cruzeiro, where he signed a youth contract at the club. América and Cruzeiro then went to court over this matter, seeing the case only getting solved in May of this year. 2 years after this, Roque signed his first professional contract with Cruzeiro, making his debut on the 12th of October 2021 in a normal draw in the Serie B against Botafogo. In the following season, Vitor Roque got his first goal in professional football on the 20th of February in a 2-2 home draw, and just 3 days after that he got himself a brace in a 5-0 win in the Copa do Brasil. And just a couple months later, Vitor Roque joined Atlético Paranaense on a 5-year deal after Atletico paid the £3.3 million release clause for the 17-year-old. At Paranaense, Vitor Roque went nuclear. In his first and only season at Paranaense, Vitor Roque played 45 games, getting an extremely impressive 21 goals and 8 assists, seeing Barcelona agree to a deal for Roque worth 30 million euros, seeing Atletico get a very impressive £22 million profit after only a handful of months with Roque on their books. Now, Vitor Roque is mainly a striker, but he is kind of comfortable out wide, although to me he does seem best suited to play down the middle, either as a starter striker or kind of as a secondary striker. He does lack size, so that's probably why I would put him mainly as a secondary striker. Now, despite his underwhelming 6 months he's had at Barcelona, overall Vitor Roque is at times quite an impressive player. Vitor Roque isn't hugely bad at link-up play and dropping deep to help the team, although technically Vitor Roque isn't a great standout player, but in the final third is where Vitor Roque to me stands out. During his time in Brazil and during some small moments for Barca, he showed his promise in the final third. Vitor Roque is a decent finisher. He's not an amazing finisher, but he is a decent finisher. He's got a good shot to him that sees him being capable of scoring either from short or long ranges. But to me, especially in Brazil, the main thing about Vitor Roque that I like the most about him is his movements is the most impressive thing. Vitor Roque in Brazil especially had a killer instinct, and his movements, whether it be in the penalty area or just in the opposition half, his movement is extremely impressive. In Brazil, almost all of his goals came from within the 6-yard box, an extremely impressive thing to see from an 18-year-old. He has a poacher's mindset, and at times Vitor Roque's play in Brazil likened him by a lot of people to a young Kun Agüero. Again, technically he wasn't amazing in Brazil. We saw it at times where he kind of looked lackluster on the ball, but I could certainly see why there was so much hype around him joining Barcelona. And compared to how much was paid for the likes of Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, 30 million euros seemed reasonably cheap for someone like Vitor Roque, although even at the time we knew he wasn't the same type of talent as both Rodrigo and Vini. So with all of this talent that Roque seems to have, what's gone wrong at Football Club Barcelona for him? Well, it is reported that when the 19-year-old joined Barcelona, Xavi's staff immediately were concerned that he was a player that wouldn't meet expectations at the club, aka Xavi and his staff were almost immediately convinced that he was going to be a bust. Xavi and his staff immediately likened him to someone like Fabio Rockenbach, someone who Xavi played with that was a bust at Barcelona. Even when Vitor Roque trained with La Masia, the academy of Barcelona, the coaches saw more technical problems in him than most other players at his age group in the academy. Xavi was reportedly always against the idea of Barcelona signing Vitor Roque because of his technical issues that was even apparent at times during his time in Brazil. In this last half season with Barcelona, during his 16 games for Barcelona, Vitor Roque only managed to start in just 2 games for the club, and he only managed 2 goals from his 16 appearances, seeing him score both of those goals in the span of 4 days and 41 minutes of game time, including getting a red card and including a winning goal against Alaves. But after that, he failed to make a positive impact when he was playing for Barcelona, and it was clear that Xavi didn't favor him, that he looked like a player, to me anyway, that looked very short on confidence. Barcelona now would like to apparently sell him to a Saudi Arabian club because of the little belief they have in his potential around the club, and there is an obvious need for Barcelona to balance their books, especially with the heavy interest that the club has in guys like Nico Williams and Dani Olmo. Now, call me crazy, but even after this horrible 6 months at Barcelona, I still see some promise in Vitor Roque. Now, I certainly don't think he's the same level of a talent that Vini or Rodrigo were at his age, but Roque is still a good and promising player. People forget, but when Vini and Rodrigo were at Real Madrid, they both went through some very rough patches with Madrid, but had some excellent coaching from the likes of Carlo Ancelotti that helped them become the players they are today. Roque now joined a club at 19 years old, going across the world to Spain, where he joined a club that he was instantly doubted at by the backroom staff and the coaches, even after scoring 2 goals in 2 games. He clearly looks like a player short on confidence, and I still think with the right coaching, Vitor Roque can still become a fairly impressive player in his future. I don't think a move to Saudi Arabia would be good for his career, obviously, but he definitely does need a move from Barcelona, even if it's a loan, although Barcelona do want to outright sell him. He needs to join a club where they believe in him and are willing to give him the coaching he needs and the game time he needs to improve. I guess Barcelona are looking to sell him now, being that they want Nico Williams and Dani Olmo so badly, but I don't know, I still see some promise in Vitor Roque. I think he was dealt a bad hand while in his 6 months at Barcelona, and I could still see him becoming a fairly high-level goal-scoring striker. I think he should join a club that's going to prioritize his development, a club like Porto, Benfica, whatever the case is, and a club where he can just be a poacher in the team, where he doesn't have to drop deep to build up, where his technical ability isn't that relied upon, because as a poacher, his movement in the 6-yard box, his movement in the penalty area is still fairly impressive for a 19-year-old. I don't know, maybe I'm just buying into the Vitor Roque hype, but after watching all his tape in Brazil, after watching 6 months of him in Barcelona, I'm still convinced that he's a decent enough player, provided he gets the right coaching. And with so many young, promising talents in the past, a lot of them have failed purely down to bad coaching or being in a bad environment. Again, some good coaching in a good environment, or Vitor Roque can then become a reliable striker in the future. I'm not saying he's going to get anywhere near the level of Vini or Rodrigo or Neymar or anything like that, but as a player, I still think he could become a solid, dependable striker for a decent enough football team.